Hello and welcome to Decoding Attachment Styles. Today we are going to be diving into one of the most misunderstood attachment styles, and it's the most sought after attachment styles when it comes to people wanting to understand it. It is the avoidant attached style person. Now, I find it really interesting that a lot of people will be highly against the avoidant attachment style, but yet it is the one that everyone really wants to understand. And I mean, that means like the avoidant attached person reaches out wanting to understand more about themselves and how they can heal. And the anxious attached wants to understand about the avoidant attached and how they can adapt to their avoidant attached partner's needs and patterns so they could build a better, healthier relationship. I will continue to encourage all of us to focus on our own healing, our own growth, so that we could become securely attached. And when that happens, we know how to set boundaries and we don't have to contort ourselves so that somebody else will feel comfortable. We have to allow people to go through their healing journey on their own. So what we want to do today is look at the avoidant attachment style. I'm going to ask a few questions and then I'm going to answer them based on the insights that I have on the attachment style. So if you've got an avoidant attachment style and that is fearful or dismissive, you'll be able to take these questions and my insights and probably reflect on it and make these little changes that you need to heal your attachment style. And if you have an anxious or a secure attachment style and you just want to understand a partner or a family member's attachment style, avoidant attachment style, then this gives you better insight into that person. Now, if you're someone who values independence, you struggle with vulnerability, or you often feel smothered in relationships, this one's for you. And if you love someone who's avoidant, this will help you see that their behavior in a whole new light is not about you. It's about what they're struggling with. All right, let's ask this question. When you feel someone getting too close emotionally, what's your immediate reaction? How do you create distance? You see, what happens is avoidant attached people often use strategies like humor, or they change the topic, or they physically withdraw to deflect intimacy. For example, what they might do is they might suddenly focus on work or forget to reply to deep texts. Why? Because of the fear of engulfment. They don't want to lose their autonomy in the relationship. They want to feel like they are in control of themselves. So they're not going to respond to that text message right away. They're going to try really hard not to meet up too often. And that is because they're feeling like they're getting a little too close to you. Another question you want to ask yourself is, what beliefs do I hold about relying on others? For example, I can only depend on myself. Where might this be coming from? You see, many avoidant attached people have learned early on that needing others can lead to disappointment, which means they might have had an absent parent or a parent who emotionally neglected them because that parent was busy doing something else. And now the child grows up feeling like, you know what, I got to take care of myself. So I can't really rely on other people. What you can do is you can challenge this belief. You can ask yourself, is it true that no one can be trusted? Or are there exceptions? Have I had people in my life that I could have actually depended on? People who were actually there for me? One of the questions you want to ask yourself, how do you react when someone expresses strong emotional needs? Do you feel overwhelmed, irritated, numb? You see, the reason I'm asking this is because avoidant attached individuals, they will often shut down when they face or when they're faced with others' emotions, not because they don't care, but because they feel unequipped to handle them. They just don't know what to do. Why does this happen? Well, if you're growing up in a home where your parents or your caregivers don't have the time or the emotional capacity, or they're just busy doing stuff and they don't know how to sit there and ask you questions like how you're doing, then you don't know how to be there for other people. Let me give you an example. This is something I thought about. I was actually discussing it with one of my sisters not so long ago. So I was 13 when mom passed away, and my sisters were 11. And I can't remember any adult sitting with us during that time or even after asking, hey, how are you guys doing? How are you feeling here? What's going on in your minds? No one showed care. And I grew up in a third world country. We didn't have therapists at that time. And so, I could have easily grown up to be an avoidant attached person. I could have easily interpreted that in very formative years as, wait a second, no one really cares. I now have to fend for myself, which really is how the avoidant attached person has learned that I can't depend on anyone because I'm not getting the mirroring of what compassion and care looks like. Now you get into a relationship with someone and you don't know how to show up for that person emotionally because you never had an example of it. Now, in my case, I've had an example of it. My mother had shown compassion and care, and my father did too. I'm just talking about a particular experience that can change a person's attachment style or lean them towards a particular attachment style. It was just an example. What I'm trying to share here is that those with an avoidant attachment style, they don't know how to show up for someone's emotional needs because they've never had that mirrored onto them. If we grew up in a home and you get hurt and your caregivers are coming in and they're like, hey, what's going on? Can I help you? Oh, let me get you some soup. Let me take care of you. Let me put a Band-Aid there. Let me kiss your boo-boo. And that you keep that memory with you. You're learning how to show empathy and care and compassion. And so you're better equipped to be there for other people. Now, with the avoidant attached, they more than likely did not have that. You would find that most of these individuals are individuals who had to wake up and get their own breakfast and probably help their siblings to get ready for school. Or they came home and they were alone and they had to get a snack for themselves and get their homework done by themselves. They watched some TV, they showered themselves, they got themselves ready for school. These are little humans who are put with the task of acting as adults, as learning to take care of themselves, as being independent. And so if they're doing that from a very, very early age, they're in a different kind of survival mode. They learn how to provide, how to protect, how to take care of. They're not equipped for the emotional stuff. Doesn't mean that it cannot be learned, but it's just something that they're not familiar with. And if you've got an avoidant attachment style, what you can do is reframe that thinking. You can ask, is their need an attack on you? Is it okay to say, I need some time to process this? If someone asks for emotional closeness, instead of shutting down, try asking for some time to process it and then come back to it. And in that time, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen here? You can also ask, what's a relationship where you didn't feel the need to distance yourself? And what was different about it? You see, those with an avoidant attachment style can connect deeply when they feel safe. And it's often with people who don't pressure them and people who respect their boundaries. So, for example, if a friend never forces you to talk, you're probably going to want to open up. But if you feel pressured into doing anything, if you feel like you are stating what your boundary is, I need time to respond. I would like for you to not call me or text me during my work hours. These are my work hours. And you get the response you're looking for. You're getting the respect that you're looking for. you're more than likely going to feel safe in that relationship. Now, a tricky thing here about your healing is going to be to remove the people who don't respect you from your life, because that's going to keep you in that place of fear and confusion. Let's say there is someone who makes you feel pressured, who controls you, who makes you feel guilty, who does not respect your boundaries. And then there is another person in your life who makes you feel safe. What can happen is, because there's one who does not respect your boundary, your brain is constantly going to be reminded that I can't trust people. I can't get close to people. People hurt me. People want something from me. Love means giving up myself. And so the one that you do feel safe with is the one that you're going to push away. That's the one that you want to keep in your life, the one that you feel safe with, but you're going to push them away. So a part of our healing has a lot to do with changing our environment, the people in our environment. Sometimes we just need to let people go if we want to see and experience that better version of ourselves. Another question you want to ask yourself is, what's something people misunderstand about your need for space? You see, it is not rejection, it's recharging. You have to think of yourself as a battery, and you can explain that to someone. You could say to them, it's not rejection, this is just me recharging. And you have to think of me like a battery. I need alone time to refill so I can show up better for you. And if you're in a relationship with someone who's got an avoidant attachment style, it would be very helpful if you knew this. If you knew that when they pull away, they're being charged up, just like your phone. You can't use the phone when it's dead, or when it's at 5%, you know it's time to plug it in. Recharge it. Look at your avoidant attached partner as the same thing. Hey, if I'm in this person's space for 2 days, maybe they need some recharge time. Maybe I need to step away and let them recharge. And in that way, you make them feel safe and secure, because now they're not in their head burning up more battery, trying to figure out, how do I ask this person for space without them getting upset? You can excuse yourself from their presence. Just let them do their thing. And then you ask, well, Annalisa, what am I supposed to do in that time? Well, you get about your life. You must have things in your life that's fun that you want to do. You must have friends that you want to hang out with, catch up with. You also need to recharge away from your partner. That only happens when we're in a more secure, attached space. Ask yourself another question. I've got a few of them left. What's a small, low-risk way someone could support you without triggering your avoidant attachment? And here's some tips that you can use. You can say, give me a heads up before a deep conversation. How do we have that conversation? We can say, hi, I'd like to talk about, and be very specific about what you want to talk about. That prepares the other person for what it is, instead of them getting in their mind and wondering, oh my gosh, what are we going to talk about here? What's the scary thing that's coming up? Say, I would like to talk about this. And then you say, what is it you hope to achieve at the end of the conversation? I would like to talk about this, and I'm hoping that at the end of our conversation, we could come to an understanding so that we could get this thing sorted out. Be very specific about it. Okay, so the person knows that you want to have a conversation about spending a little more time together. And at the end of it, I hope that we can come to a compromise where we both feel comfortable and at ease without any pressure. And now the person knows, oh, this person's got my feelings, taking my feelings into consideration as well. You can also say, don't assume that my silence means that I'm angry. Sometimes I just need quiet. And when you become securely attached, this is something that you'll also appreciate. When I was an anxious attached person, I often felt like I had to fill the space with something to talk about. And when I met my partner 4 years ago, I remember sitting in the car and he would be quiet. It would be super quiet. And I would be quiet, but at that time, still uncomfortable that it was quiet. I would think, I wonder what he's thinking about. Is he thinking about the relationship? Did I say something? Is he upset with me? And then he would suddenly start talking about sports or travel, or it was always something unrelated, something very light, something fun. And as time moved on and I studied the attachment style more and more and listened and observed people, I started to realize that the avoidant attached person hardly ever thinks about the relationship or heavy emotional stuff that an anxious attached person may think about. They're thinking about the most mundane thing, and it makes sense because they don't like the vulnerable stuff. Emotional stuff make them uncomfortable. So why think about it? Why not think about the light, fun stuff? So if you know that, then you'll know they're not upset with you. If they're upset, that's not the thing that they want to talk about. Doesn't mean that they don't feel insecure or worried, but it doesn't consume them. They're not the overthinkers of this, unless the relationship ends, but that's a whole different podcast episode to talk about. But so when they go quiet, and again, on this topic, a client of mine reached out recently, obsessing over text messages sent by her partner, and obsessing because this person did not respond in 6 hours. And she's like, I'm going through the text messages. I don't think he would be angry at me for this. I mean, I said this. Why would he be angry at me? Why isn't he responding? Turns out he was at work and could not respond to the message. So save yourself the overthinking. Think of it this way. And this is something that switched for me. And it's going to sound a little harsh, but it did help me. So I'm going to throw it out there and probably it's going to help you. I remember thinking, my gosh, I'm so full of myself to think that this person only thinks about me and there's nothing else going on there. And it was that thought that made me realize, wait a second, no, they have other things happening in their life. And if they have a problem with me, it is their healing work to do, to come and have a conversation with me. I don't need to use up my energy trying to figure out what's going on with them. None of my business. And that's how you start to think when you become more securely attached. Another question that you want to ask yourself is, when you withdraw, what actually is happening here? What's happening inside of you? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling distrust? Or is there something else that's going on? See, what happens is avoidant attached persons often feel shame for needing help, but they can't admit it. Sometimes they're not even aware of it. Here's a script for you if you are a partner of someone who's got an avoidant attachment style. You can ask, are you needing space? Or is there something I can do? Or you could just be attuned to your partner's need. You could just see when they start to pull away. And you could say, I sense you need some space. I'm going to let you be, and I'm going to go across here, and I'm going to do this thing. How about you recharge, and then you could come back to me whenever you're ready. And everybody can relax in that time. But you, the avoidant attached person, you also need to look at yourself internally and question those feelings. Are they valid? Are they necessary? Is it just coming up from childhood wounds? The 8th question, if you've not been following and not taking notes, we're on the 8th question. If you woke up tomorrow feeling safe in closeness, what would change about your relationship? Many times, many avoidance or avoidant attached persons will secretly crave connection, but they fear the cost of it. See, they often feel like if I give in, if I get too close to this person, then they may leave me, or they may start to expect more. And that's a risk sometimes they don't want to take. What you can ask yourself, or you can say to yourself, is maybe I would stop self-sabotaging when things get too serious. Because what happens is you want that closeness, right? I'm talking to my avoidant attached friends here. You want the closeness. You're craving it. You need it. And you get it. You make the attempt to get it. And as you get closer, you start to find every possible excuse, whether it's conscious or unconscious, to push the other person away. And that is self-sabotaging. It is that I want this thing, but I'm afraid. I don't think I'm worthy. I think I'm going to lose it if I get it. So let me just create stuff around it, push it away to see if it's going to stay. And in many cases, the thing that you're trying to push away is another human being who's got feelings, and they can't be pushed for too long. They get tired and exhausted, and they leave. And then you're left with, oh, see, yeah, everything, it happens. Everybody leaves. No, they're not leaving. They don't want to leave. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never had an anxious attached person who came in and said, yes, I couldn't wait to leave. Yes, I got into this relationship wanting to leave this person. They've always wanted to stay. Always. We all get into relationships wanting them to work. But our fears take over, and we start to self-sabotage. The anxious attached, you also do this, but we'll keep you for another episode. So we have to know that I want this relationship, but I'm afraid of getting too close. And we talk about the importance of communication. It is not easy to communicate, but if we can communicate and say, I like this feeling and I am scared, then the other person would be able to understand that it's not a them thing. And you get to say, hey, don't try to fix it. This is me in my head. Only I can do it. The more you try to fix it, the more suffocated I feel. The best thing you can do for me is to step back and let me handle this on my own. I just want to share. And if you keep pushing me, I'm going to stop sharing. You can set your boundaries. You can say, this is how I feel, and that's that. And the better thing that you can do for yourself is have the conversation really early in the relationship when you're not so afraid of losing the person just yet. Because the longer you take to have this conversation, the more afraid you become of losing the person when you speak up. So speak up early, get everything out there, and then wait to see how things unfold. And that's when you could always say, well, you know what? 3 months in, I told you about this. I told you the first week or the second week. You weren't listening to me. Now you're complaining about it. 3 months in, you're strong enough to say, I'm going to let go of this relationship because even though I told you, you didn't hear me. So you could safeguard yourself early in the relationship. There is no need to be afraid of getting into relationships. Question number 9. What's one boundary you want to keep and one you're willing to soften on? So for example, you can say, all right, I'm going to keep my solo weekend hikes, which means you're just going to do one thing by yourself. And what can you soften on? Maybe you can say, all right, I'm going to let my partner know when I'm struggling instead of just ghosting them. And if you are a partner of an avoidant attached person, please know that to want to do everything with your partner is codependency. You must be comfortable doing things without your partner. You must be comfortable doing things by yourself, with your friends and family, having a hobby, having a class, whatever it is. There must be times when you're comfortable doing things by yourself and your partner as an individual. It's healthy for them to do things by themselves as well. Not every time they go out with their friends, they've got to bring you along. Sometimes people just want to talk and they want to share and they don't want their partner to hear. No, you don't have to know everything that your partner is thinking about. They have a mind. It's like a diary. It's like a journal. We don't force people to share everything that they're thinking. Okay, so allow individuals to be and be a part of the relationship. You know, this has been a very scary thing for those with an avoidant attachment style. Oh my gosh, if I'm in a relationship, then I'm no longer a person. I have someone who tells me what to do, who expects me to become what they want me to be. It's kind of like control. It's kind of like getting a pet and putting the pet on a chain and walking them around. They can't move without permission. And that's no way for us humans to live. Any human being is going to fight back against it. Now, there are a lot of anxious attached persons in relationships that they would label as abusive, controlling relationships. They're not comfortable in those relationships too. And we're able to empathize when we ask ourselves, pull ourselves away from who we are. I mean, look at us from the outside and say, okay, how would I feel if I was dating someone like this? How would I feel? And really be honest with yourself, because I know a lot of people will say, oh, it would be fun to date an anxious attached style person. Really ask yourself honestly, are you comfortable with someone getting upset with you if you don't respond to them in an hour or two? And if you feel like, oh, well, it only takes a minute to respond to a text message. How many times did you respond to a text message and you thought, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh my gosh, what did I say? I should have taken my time. Oh, why didn't I wait? That means we didn't take the time to process what we wanted to say before we said it, which means it does not take only a second or two to respond to a message. It takes a second or two to respond to respond carelessly at times to a message. But if you want to do it carefully, it takes time for the brain to receive information, to process it, and to respond and react the way as evolved human beings we would want to. Final question. What's a movie, book, or song that captures how you wish you could relate to others and why? The insight here is that avoidant attached persons will often resonate with characters who are independent but lonely. Example, Lost in Translation, Social Network. And this shows the gap between how I act and how I want to feel. How I act and how I want to feel. If you look at the movies that you like, the characters you like in movies, you will see that they are highly independent, they are funny, but they're also loners. And then you get to a glimpse. And why is this so? We're human beings who connect with like-minded things, individuals, art, whatever it is. We project who we are onto something else. And so depending on what we like, we give others, you give yourself, a better idea of your unconscious mechanics. If you're avoidant, your independence, it's a superpower. When I was an anxious attached, I wanted that superpower. I wanted that independence. But you don't have to be an island. And becoming securely attached means that you're going to be able to hold on to the superpower, but also be open to connection. It's just a matter of learning how to be 10% more emotionally available. And if you love someone who has an avoidant attachment style, patience is key. While you work on your attachment style, if you have an anxious attachment, then patience is key. You want to know that their walls are not about you. They're about their old wounds, and small, consistent steps are going to build trust over time. Let me know what question here resonated most with you. Share your thoughts, leave in the comment section, and do not forget to subscribe so that you can get the new podcast episodes as soon as they are released. Until next time, this is Decoding Attachment Style, and I am Annalisa Bahadur.